Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on. Go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on. Get paid. Jay,
Oh,
we
snap,
back.
Jake.
We back with
We
another
back,
one.
Jake.
And I had to start with an intro like that because as of yesterday, the whole all-star team is announced. And there's one name that I'm just gonna start out right away. Congrats, Federico Van Vliet. Nice to see you as an all-star. I was waiting. That was my early pick. But Jay, we back with another hidden takes after a little bit of a break. We'll explain to the fans just getting some things in order work wise and other just life took over. But we back, brother. Good to see you. And just before we start, viewer discretion is advised because if you can't handle the heat,
Stay away
straight
from
out the kitchen,
man.
So we back though, Jay. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to be back. Like how you said, had a little hiccup with life, but it's all good. We're gonna keep it pushing, and we here. And I'm honestly so damn excited for this episode, Jay, because not only is there so much to talk about with the All Star, but it's just there's so much going on around the NBA right now. It's just picking up. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm a race car driver going into gear 6. I'm gearing up, Jay.
Yes, sir, man. No, we're gearing up for the deadline, like you said, more than halfway through the season, man. There's a lot of shakeup going on around the league. But let's talk about what I already had mentioned earlier, and that's the All Stars that were revealed last night. And how we're gonna start this off. We know we usually start with news in these hidden takes episodes. I'm just gonna start with off by first saying the date we're recording on, which is Friday, February 4th. 2022, obviously. But we're going to first just talk about the snubs and dubs, is what we're going to call this segment of the All-Star and the All-Star rosters. There was a few names I know that stick out to me that I thought should have been locks for the All-Star game that didn't end up making it. And then there was the dubs. Like obviously early on, I'm going to already said, Fred VanVleet, I thought he was very deserving the way he's been playing and how the team is following, because there was a lot of question marks. Would they be the same team without Lowry? And he stepped right in and filled those shoes pretty well to my standards and what I believe. So, Jay, I'm gonna start off with the East team first, and then I'll read off the names there, and then what we got in the West, just for those of who may not have known at this point what the All-Star team is, but I'm pretty sure you all do by now. But so first, obviously, Kevin Durant with the captain, we already kind of knew. And that was Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Trae Young, and DeMar DeRozan all be starters for the East. And then the reserves for the East are Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers, James Harden from the Brooklyn Nets, Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls, Chris Middleton from the reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks. Had to add that little asterisk. Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics, and of course, Federico Van Vliet from the Toronto Raptors. Jay, dubs, snubs, what you got for the East, man? Let's start it right off.
I mean, all right, let's kick it off. I mean, I'm going to just start talking about the player you had to put the asterisk on. And I think that everyone should put the asterisk on because the reason, and I'm not trying to hate on him, but this is Chris Middleton. The reason he made it this year was because of what he did last year. I think it's what he's earned. I'm not saying he's not having a good season, but there are players, and even in particular players on his own team that have been having a better season, in my opinion, and their impact has been more felt. Let's look at Drew Holiday, in my opinion, the second best player on that team. The guy, yes, Giannis is the first guy. Yes, Chris Middleton is the guy that they go to in clutch moments, but I still would put Drew Holiday as the second best player on that team. I mean, look at his role on both sides of the ball, man. I mean, we know NBA players are never stop giving him praise, saying he's one of the most underrated guard defenders. And as of late in the last couple of years, the league has been coming to realize that, and we saw that the Bucks were struggling early on in the year because they were missing so many. It wasn't just Drew Holiday; it was other players as well. But Drew Holiday was a big impact as to why they couldn't be this great defensive team. And then we also know that he can bring it on the offensive end. Man, he can be a bucket getter for himself. He can also set up his big guys. He's got Bobby Portis out there having a great season. I mean, I would know best. Bobby's on my fantasy, man. So I mean, Bobby's just been feasting for me, and that's
Bobby P.
And that's all Drew. Drew's been setting him up, man. So I mean, That's the first thing I want to start off with. I was a little mind boggled that Drew Holiday didn't make it, but Chris Middleton made it. There's some other players in the East, but I don't know if you want to bounce, you want to go back and forth here on some snubs that you got. But as far as the East,
yeah, I mean, I definitely think that like you said, Chris Middleton did make it because of what he had done in the past. But I mean, I think winning the championship, I was having this conversation with friend of the show, Oko, about this, and he was mentioning that Chris Middleton shouldn't have been on this roster. He thought LaMelo Ball was more deserving. He thought Miles Bridges. Those were the two that he named, and I mean, I kind of agreed with him, John. Like that, those are two players who are definitely deserving. Actually, I'll say that, but like you mentioned, and like I put the asterisk on it, winning a championship comes with a certain amount of clout, a certain amount of things that you've earned. And it could be in the past, but as a reigning champion, I do agree with the Drew Holiday if there was to be a replacement, but he did miss a lot of games too. So I will add that. Chris Middleton's, for the most part, has been, despite I think one, maybe him sitting out for a little bit, and then obviously COVID, as most players have gotten, or the health and safety protocols, as I should say, more politically correct. We don't know what they had, but Chris Middleton was sitting out, but he's been pretty Mr. Consistent for the Bucks for the majority of this season. So I think that's why he may have gotten the nod over potentially, and I will agree, a more deserving Drew Holiday. But I'm just going to segment into the snubs, and that's for sure Mr. LaMelo Ball over there in Charlotte. And what has he done in his last 5 games, Jace? He's put up 38 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 29 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists, 25 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, Jay. And that's all in the past 5 games, Jay. That sounds like an all-star to me if I've ever heard one. And he's been putting up those numbers, and he's kept the Charlotte Hornets afloat, man. Not to say that he hasn't had help, because he has help from another guy who I thought was extremely deserving, and that's Mr. R&B, Mr. RT, Miles Bridges, man. You know what he's been doing, man. And I think that those are 2 big snubs. And I think one of them for sure, it's also too, you don't really know how the position wise, how's it going to shake up because of how they have, forwards, guards. And I think that's going to play into a factor. And we know that Kevin Durant isn't going to be participating in this All-Star game because he's supposed to be a starter. So it's going to be interesting to see which of those 2 gets the All-Star game. But who are you thinking between the 2 if we're going to come down to who takes over as a kind of a fill-in? Because I'll also throw out another name, and that's Pascal Siakam, who's been playing great up here, I should say, in Toronto. So those are 3 names that come to mind who are very deserving there in the East. Now, let's not even talk about the West, because there's a lot of snubs on that side. But
Can I throw two other names, Jay, that were extremely deserving? Jared Allen was extremely diverse. Damn, I can't say the word.
Deserving. Yep.
There we go. Thanks, brother.
Yep.
Jared Allen.
So baffled by it.
So baffled, I can't even say it.
So disgusted.
We got Jared Allen, and then I know it's crazy. I know his team hasn't been doing as well, but Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown has been putting up a ridiculous season. So, with that in mind, with the names of Jared Allen, LaMelo, Jaylen Brown, and Miles Bridges, and Miles Bridges, with all those names in mind, with all those names mentioned, I'm trying to think who was the biggest snub though, Jay, because I mean, all of those guys were deserving. I mean, let's just be real. All those guys were deserving. Jared Allen was the best defender on a team that was the 3rd best defensive team in the league. LaMelo Ball, I mean, he's the reason the Hornets go, right? If LaMelo Ball doesn't go, the Hornets aren't going. We saw how bad they were doing when he's out. I mean, the Hornets are extremely dependent on him, which is bad for the Hornets as a team, but really makes LaMelo look like that great all-star that he is. Jaylen Brown, the team isn't as dependent on him because they have Jason Tatum to be able to do that work. But Jaylen Brown has been steady, like how you said. I mentioned Chris Middleton being consistent. That's what Jaylen Brown has been, that steady diet for the Celtics, as Jason Tatum had a slow start. And I mean, Miles Bridges has been LaMelo's complimentary piece, man. So I don't know, Jay. I'm trying to think. I don't even have the answer myself as to, out of all those guys, who's the biggest snub.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna throw in this rotten apple, and this is how I'm thinking of it. And I'm gonna use the West for an example, and then I'm gonna relay that to what I got in the East and why there is a rotten apple in the bunch of the East, and it's not even Chris Middleton. So when you look at who is in the West, and they're all the team that, just real quick, I'm not going to name the whole roster because, well, I'm going to name it after. But the first seed Suns have a representative. The Warriors obviously have 3 representatives. The Grizzlies have 1 representative. I'm naming it in order of what seed they are. The number 4 Jazz, they have 2 representatives. The Mavericks have 1 representative. The Nuggets, the 6th seed, have 1 representative. The Timberwolves have 1 representative, and then it skips to the 9th seed, and the Lakers have 1 representative with LeBron, right? So those are basically the top 8 seeds, top 9 seeds in the West. Then let's flip it to the East. You got the Bulls with DeMar and Zach LaVine. You got the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler. You got, and I'm naming this in order of seed for those listening. And then 76ers, you got Joel. Bucks, you got 2 and Chris Middleton and Giannis. 5th seed, you got Darius Garland. 6th seed, you got James Harden and KD. 7th seed, you got Federico. And then it skips. And then you mentioned Jaylen Brown. It skips. Obviously, it's the 9th seed, Jason Tatum. Then it skips that 8th seed. And here's where I got the rotten apple, who is starting. And I'm not saying he's
right there,
not deserving.
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young, Jay, starting at a 10th seed, sitting 1 game below 500, and that's coming off a win last night, a huge win, I'll say, over the Phoenix Suns. But before this roster was after this roster was decided, and Jay, that's where a rotten apple sticks out to me, because you're skipping over the 8th seed, and you're also skipping over a guy like Jared Allen, who might be deserving of a team getting 2. I don't know, Jay, but that's a rotten apple that I got in the East, where you look at a team like the Boston Celtics, who are 3 games over 500. You're not even over 500 if you're the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, albeit that's what comes in what I was talking about, mentioned earlier, Jay, and that's the factor of having that clout, making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's a little bit of a build over what did you did for me last year. But I'm kind of a firm believer, and I'm kind of feeling into what you were saying earlier, is that what have you done for me lately? And I think that's how more it should be decided when we look at these all-star teams and how it's decided. I think Trae Young, yes, all-star, deserving. Starter, no, I think that's a rotten apple. And I think guys like Jaylen Brown and other guys should be considered. LaMelo, Miles Bridges,
man,
Jared Allen.
I love that, Jay. I love that, because I agree with that so much. Not only do I think that these other players that you mentioned, Jared Allen, Jaylen Brown, LaMelo, all these players should get more consideration, but also, like, I think a player like Zach LaVine, who's been balling out of his mind, should have been in the starting lineup with DeMar over Trae Young and DeMar. And like, honestly, with DeMar and Zach LaVine, you could have gone both ways. Like, all right, I'm gonna pick this one, and both is a great option. I'm not hating on DeMar, but I think it should have been DeMar and Zach LaVine out there. So not only do I agree with your point with as far as they really snubbed like Jaylen Brown, LaMelo, Miles Bridges, and Jared Allen by really allowing Trae Young to be a starter in there, but they really like snubbed, I think, Zach LaVine of an all-star starting position, man. So that's that. I'm right there with you, Jay. I definitely like your perspective on that one. But how about we kick it to the West, brother? Let's talk about the West a little bit.
Kick it to the West. Yeah, absolutely. So in the starters, real quick, we got the captain, LeBron James, Los Angeles Lakers, Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets, Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, also of the Golden State Warriors, and then Ja Morant rounding out the starters from the Memphis Grizzlies in the West. And then for the reserves, Devin Booker from the first place Phoenix Suns, Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks, Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz, Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors, Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz, Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns, and Karl Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves, rounding out the reserves for the West, man. Jay, Dubs, Snubs, what you got in the West?
Man, let me just give hats off real quick, because I don't think enough people give hats off to Chris Paul. But he's 36. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's 36. Like, LeBron James, yes, he is being a great player right now, and I don't think anyone's seen this kind of productivity at this kind of age, and that then the kind of numbers he's producing is insane. It's GOAT like. Yes, I'm giving him all the shine, all the praise, but like, CP3 isn't far off. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, CP3 isn't far off. I'm not saying CP3 isn't far off as LeBron as a player. Yes, LeBron is miles ahead of CP3 as a player, one-on-one. I'll take LeBron in every situation, no matter what age. But what I'm saying is that, like, I think that so much attention is getting put on LeBron. Wow, LeBron is doing this at 37. Wow, LeBron is leading the league in 30-point games, and he's one of the oldest players. And all his attention is going on Bron, which is deserving. Let's give Bron his attention for what he's doing, which is crazy. But I think a little bit more light should be shined on CP3, and some people should be talking about the fact that the CP3 is leading. He's the point guard. The point guard is the extension of the coach on the court, and he is leading the Phoenix Suns to I think as of right now, they're the number one seed in the West. He hasn't had no slow ups. You know, usually players around this age, like I'm big Kobe fan. Kobe Bryant's actually the reason I got into basketball. But I remember when Kobe Bryant was 36, 37, and they were at the bottom of the Western Conference bracket. They were at the bottom of the Western Conference bracket. Kobe Bryant was getting hurt in the early rounds in the playoffs, or either late in the season. So, and again, this is no hate. This is no hurt on Kobe. This is no nothing. This is just like showing the greatness of the LeBron, showing the greatness of the CP3 to be able to be producing like this, keeping your team at the top of its level. You're staying at your top of your performance level is just. I just wanted to give a quick hats off to that. So that's as far as the Dubs. And then just real quick, Jay, I mean, if I'm just going to talk about snubs, I'm just going to stay on the same path I've been on. I know you weren't feeling it at first. Maybe after some consideration and some thought, you're feeling it now, but I'm still think Anthony Edwards was a snub, Jay. He has been having a ridiculous season, man, averaging more points than all-star named players like Chris Middleton, Jimmy Butler, Fred Van Vliet, Andrew Wiggins, and also I think the role he's taken on this year has just been has took a crazy leap. I think last year he wasn't assigned as much responsibility to be that scorer, to be that second guy, and in times, really, I think D'Lo has taken that third position and has really allowed Ant to be that second guy behind Karl Anthony Towns, and even Wes, Wes, the Wolves fans, we had him on the interviews for the offseason. Shout out Wes. He was saying on Twitter, because I had asked, I was like, well, to all the Timberwolves fans, who do you guys think is the number one option? Because some nights it's generally Anthony Edwards, some nights it's D'Angelo Russell, but the problem is the consistency. Who's doing it on a consistent basis? And then Wes answered with, it's different every single night, man. So some nights it's Cat, some nights it's Ant, some nights it could even be D'Lo. But I just think that Ant has really stepped up this year, and I think he's deserving of that spot. At least on the bench, man. It doesn't have to not a starter, but at least on the bench. That's what I think, man. But I don't know if you want to bounce off your first snub, Jay.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely. I think he's definitely in the consideration for guys who are going to be taking over for KD. Sorry, not KD, for Draymond. To replace him. But who's my biggest snub? My biggest snub is not Anthony Edwards, despite the season he's having. And I'm going to push it back, and the only reason that I think he wasn't named an All-Star was because they're the 12th seed right now, and that's a guy who I had way back when in history, man.
Been talking about
last year as a most improved player, and that's Mr. DeJounte Murray for the San Antonio Spurs, averaging a modest 19.6 points per game, 8.5 rebounds a game, second among guards, Jay. 9.1 assists per game, a modest fourth in the NBA with 10 triple doubles, a Spurs record. He and Luka are the only players averaging 18, 8, 8 this season. And we know how you feel about Luka, John.
Yep. You know, I'm right down.
And we know how the rest of the world and critics feel about Luka and how he's perceived in the NBA. And that's elite company right there, Jay. And I think DeJounte Murray, had it not been if they're in the play off conversation, I think he's a lock for the All-Star game. And I think it's a serious snub, regardless if you're going to give that a starting All-Star spot to Trae Young. DeJounte Murray should be in the All-Star game in the Western Conference.
Yeah, Jay, there is absolutely zero rebuttals and rebukes from me. You're not getting no objections coming from me for that, Jay. I'm right there with you. I'll be real. I'm just going to sit here and be honest with the fans. I think that it's because he's in a 12 seed, but it's also because he's in the Spurs. The Spurs aren't that flashy team that everyone pays attention to. The the NBA lovers and hoop heads like us, like, yeah, we watching the Spurs, but we're also watching Minnesota versus Oklahoma on a freaking Tuesday night. You know what I'm saying? With the casuals, they're not doing that. So I get it. You know, that people aren't seeing this and seeing what he's doing. And I'll be real, like I didn't really see his value to the point where I'm looking at now. I'm looking at his numbers and I'm saying, like, man, like what he's doing is instrumental. And I think that if he wasn't in a Spurs uniform, or if he had another flashy player there with him to not only just give him some help, but give him some more attention, give him more national televised games, then I think he would definitely have that spot, because he definitely has been having a ridiculous season, man. I mean, for any night, he's just due for a triple double, man. So I just say he definitely was a snub. I can't even, no rebukes on that, Jay.
Yeah. In terms of the rest of the West, there's a few other names, and I looked to Mikal Bridges, and one of the things, I think he's a great defensive player, but I just think the stats aren't as sexy as you look at it. The rest of the guys who are all-stars, I think the stats just really aren't there. And I think kind of stats are overlooked, are over just too much weight is put on stats in the sense that there's guys who are deserving and mean so much to the team and are all-stars in their role. And that's the perfect example of that is Mikal Bridges and what he does for Phoenix. And he definitely is an all-star in their eyes. And I'm sure just around the league too, like you said, hoop heads and guys who really understand the game and what he brings night to night, despite maybe what his numbers might say. So that's kind of another snub and potential guy. And especially the Phoenix Suns are the best team in basketball right now. So you can't really take any discredit. And they're the defending Western Conference champions. If we want to put some weight on the other side of it, like what have they done in the past, if you're going to look at a guy like Chris Middleton. So it's a little give and take on my end too, because I'm obviously, as a Warrior fan, I'd rather see the Warriors with three bursts in the All-Star game than the Phoenix Suns. But I definitely understand that Mikal Bridges is deserving of that honor as well. So I think he's a bit of a snub, but not as much as a guy like DeJounte Murray, and I don't think as much as Anthony Edwards. So leave it at that, Jay.
Jay, real quick, let me ask you one last question before we move on. I know his record is horrendous, terrible, but he's been having a good season individually. SGA. Should he have made it or not?
SGA.
Averaging 22 points per game, four rebounds, 5 assists on 27. Damn, that's terrible. 27% from three and 42% from the field. I didn't know
he's definitely deserving. He's definitely. I think early on in the season he could have made a case for it. Just another guy who just records too poor.
16 and 34. That's just I don't know if I can get past that.
Yeah, I can't get past that.
I don't know.
I'd much say that
somebody else.
Yeah, DeJounte's the guy there.
Cool. I agree. I just wanted to see how you did temperature check.
No, for sure. You got to get the temperature on that, Jay. Oh man, Jay, it's happening. It's here. The deals are already happening. They're happening. It's February 4th, 2022. And the first deal of the trade window has happened, Jay. It's finally upon us. The
Wow.
Portland Trail Blazers and the Los Angeles Clippers have agreed to a trade per ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that gives the Clippers much needed perimeter depth and scoring for this season. And I'm just going to tell you what the deal is, Jay. So the Portland Trail Blazers will send Norman Powell and Robert Covington to the Los Angeles Clippers for Eric Bledsoe, Justice Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future second round pick, man. Jay,
Wow,
what are
Jay.
I know I messaged
here.
you. So we recorded this. We recorded the earlier episode, man, and this is some breaking news. We had to add this to the hidden takes because we had to do it. But Jay, what I know I said we were talking a little bit about this deal earlier in our group chat, but how you feeling?
I mean, dang, Jay,
this?
like this is wild. Like this just came out of nowhere, Jay. Like I definitely didn't see both teams making a move. Neither did I see any of these players getting moved except Robert Covington. I guess maybe I could have seen that one coming, but this is just extremely wild, Jay. I mean, let's get into it. I guess I'll start with the Blazers side of things and Blazers perspective. That I don't really get it. It doesn't really make too much sense if you're a Blazers fan, because in my opinion, they should be in tanking mode, and in that tanking mode, they should be giving all the shots and the ultimate green light to Anthony Simons. I mean, we've seen Anthony; he's starting to really evolve as a player, and I mean, we've talked about a couple of episodes ago, right? That same thing that happened with Jordan Poole. The Warriors weren't really competing for a title, so what do? They let Jordan Poole get all that run, all that consistency. Now he's out here, a consistent player producing. That's what I think the Blazers should do with Anthony Simons. So I don't really understand bringing in Eric Bledsoe, just somebody else to take the ball away from him. You know, I guess if he wants to be an OG to Anthony, but that's already Dame. So, you know, I didn't really understand that move. But and then Justice Winslow, I don't think he makes them, you know, dramatically better. But he doesn't really hurt their chances of tanking. So I didn't really understand that unless they're just going to flip him. But as far as the Blazers side of things, I mean, I guess that's cool, but the Clippers, dog. Let me get into the Clippers real quick, Jay, because the Clippers just won. They got a big win last night against the Lakers, and then they got a big win now by pulling off this trade, man. Very aggressive. And honestly, Jay, I like the move. I really like the move because I feel like a lot of people, and even me, myself in general, like we weren't really awake. We were kind of sleeping on the Clippers with as far as being real titles contenders. I mean, with a fair knowledge, because Kawhi Leonard was out, but I feel like this move, this is them putting the world on notice, saying y'all thought we were just hanging out because Kawhi is out, but now we playing. We really trying to go after this. So that's why, like, this was just an aggressive move. I really like it, man. I mean, Rob Covington, he's going to bring that much needed, like how you said in the beginning, much needed perimeter defense, much needed small ball five lineup. I mean, we've seen Rob do that a couple times in his career, play that small ball five. Norman Powell, I mean, that's just another pure score. That's like a Paul George 2.0. So, I mean, how could you get mad at adding that? Man, I mean, I just want to add this real quick, Jay, because if by the end of the season they got a healthy Kawhi back, a healthy Paul George, Reggie Jackson, who's been proving himself, been keeping his team afloat, Marcus Morris, Zubac, who's been playing pretty well. All these role players like Nicholas Taboom and Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard, Jay. And then you add Norman Powell and Robert Covington. I think they might be up there, and we're talking like top 5, maybe top 4 creeping up. I don't know, Jay, but I'm feeling pretty excited, Jay. I'm sorry.
Nah, man. No, I mean, all valid feelings. I mean, and you look at John, you look at the Clippers and what they were already doing, like you said, without those guys. And we've seen what kind of coach Ty Lue is. I've been my opinion, criminally underrated, especially what he's done, what he has on his resume, being down 3-1, coming back. I think a lot of people overlook that and say, you know, that was LeBron's doing, but there is a coach who sets up those game plans and gets them back in games and got them back into that series ultimately. So he has a track record of being successful. I think the Lakers are kind of on as a Laker fan, you probably know, maybe we should have brought in Ty Lue because he's doing some work. He's put in some serious work and a lot of credit deserved. So now he's got a little more tools to play with. But going back to the Eric Bledsoe part for Portland, I don't really think he's going to stick. I think it was one of those things where the Clippers wanted to dump his salary. And, in order to take on those two guys, they said, we're doing you a solid. Like, we're giving you Keon Johnson. We're giving you the second round pick and Justice Winslow, and I think ultimately we could look at, I personally think this is the domino effect that shows me that Portland's full tank and they're going to definitely get rid of CJ. And I think if they don't make a deal at the deadline to get him to a team like a Pelicans, who will discuss more on our upcoming episode here with the buyers and sellers for the Western Conference, because I got a lot to say about that. But if CJ is on the move, I think these two players will be in maybe a multiple team deal, just pieces to add to the mix. So I think that's why Portland kind of wanted those guys, and it's kind of a domino effect that we'll see here probably in the next 6 days and next week. So I think that's why they brought it on. And because it wouldn't make sense if they're bringing in a guy, like you said, Bledsoe, to pair with Simons, because we've seen the flashes from Simons of what the player that he could be. But man, Jay, I think this is a beautiful deal for the Clippers. Definitely one. I think it makes them, I mean, they were in the Western Conference Finals with Paul George and Reggie Jackson, and not even Kawhi, and they took the Clippers to 6 games without Kawhi. So I think this just makes them that much better. It adds a great team defender and Robert Covington. He's not the on-ball defender that he was in his past, as he's aged, but in terms of team defender, he's up there in the best in the league. What he provides on the weak side, coming over, getting blocks, steals, hands in the passing lane. Norman Powell, another serviceable defender, and a Swiss Army knife. He can drive, he can shoot the ball, like you said. He's also a member of Getting Iggy With It, my fantasy team. So I'm excited to see him in this new role too, because he doesn't even have to defer to Anthony Simons. I think he's really going to get the tools to this offense, at least for the rest of this season, because I think this is going to be a situation, Jay, where the Clippers kind of, in a sense, I think they're kind of realizing Paul George may be out for the season, and they're gearing up towards next season to make that run when they got everything healthy. But if they get Kawhi and Paul George back this season in the playoffs,
come on,
I don't know, because they can integrate them. They can get the Rob and Norman integrated, and then when those two come back, it's an easy fit because they've already played in Tyronn Lue's system. But man, I'm kind of worried as a Warrior fan, man.
Jay. Oh man, if the Clippers somehow turn around, that would be crazy. And all the credit would be looked towards here, man. So then, man, that is a crazy trade, Jay. And like how we said on the last, I believe it was last episode, I told you that I asked the question, do you think it's going to be a lot of trades? And then you said, a little more on the conservative side. And I was like, well, if one goes, it's going to go. So let's see, Jay. Is this going to be a domino effect?
Is this it?
Are all the trades about to start falling out the sky? I really hope so, Jay, because we got to have these emergency pods.
Yes, sir. A lot more emergency pods. So that's all the recap, man. We just wanted to real quick touch on this and enjoy the rest of the show, man. Some action-packed hidden takes for y'all. Peace. Let's move on here, man. Let's get into our next segment, and that's the Kia MVP ladder. And who I've been thinking the front runner this year, and that's been Jokic. When we had Garrett on the show, it was Steph to begin the season. We know obviously he went into a slump. Jokic, I thought, was playing great basketball. He has been playing great basketball, and putting up triple doubles on a Brett Lee nightly basis, keeping the Denver Nuggets in the 5th or 6th seed, I believe in. Let me double check. They are the 6th seed, yes, right now, as we stand here on February 4th. And Jay, let's talk about the standings that Kia released, and that's Joel Embiid, who's now the first number 1 in their rankings, averaging 29 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and I'm just playing unreal basketball. The Eastern Conference Player of the Month for January, playing unbelievable basketball, averaging NBA best 34 points in the month of January with 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, all while shooting 54% from the field since the 1981 82 season, Jay. Embiid is one of just 5 players to average 34 points, 10 rebounds in a month while playing in at least 10 games, joining Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, um, Karl Malone, and Moses Malone. Man, Jay, that's some elite company, brother. And then number 2, real quick, I'll just run it down real quick. Is Nikola Jokic. Know what he's been doing: 25 points per game, 13 rebounds, 7 assists. Number 3 is Giannis Antetokounmpo, averaging 28 points, 11 rebounds, and six assists. Chris Paul deservingly being number 4 with 15 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 10.4 assists per game, and then Steph sitting at the 5th seed, actually moved up 1 spot at 26 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game. Jay, so how you feeling? How are we feeling about this top 5? You got any moves, any changes between this?
I was thinking, when you started talking, you mentioned how, like, I remember at the beginning of the season, like, the NBA narrative was like, man, this is Curry's year to win it. And then, like, it's just crazy. Like, a roller coaster of a year can, he goes on a bit of a shooting slump, Joel Embiid. And then Joel Embiid was nowhere in the top 5 at the beginning of the season. And then for him to just take over, I think it's just crazy. But I mean, let's talk about it, Jay. Man, Joel Embiid, I so want him to win this because I've been pushing for him to win MVP for the past couple of seasons. But the thing is, like, I could never really sit here and make a genuine, serious argument to someone because they would just look at me and say, bro, yes, he had a great game, but he only played in like 30 games, right? And like that was my issue, right? Like he never had played in enough games. He still is injury prone, to be real. Like he still is an extremely injury prone player, but right now he's played in 39 games of the games that the Sixers played, and he's been extremely dominant, man. In all those games, you've been able to feel his presence, and just watching a 76ers game, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy watching on TV that I really want to be able to watch in person. And like, I'm talking like court side where I can see this close enough because we're talking about Joel Embiid, a 7-foot dude who's out here moving like a guard. Like Joel Embiid is taking players off the dribble from the 3-point line, getting into a step back and getting into the jumper. Or if he doesn't have that, he has the footwork of Olajuwon over there in the post to be able to get inside, spin move. And then he's just big bodying everybody. It's really crazy out there right now. Joel Embiid has no stop. For the little guys, he's too big. For the little guys, he's too fast. For the little guys, he's too big. For the fast guys, he's too strong. He can shoot the mid-range. He's shooting a 3. He's been able to defend players in the perimeter. And honestly, at this point, I'm really rooting for him because the past couple of years he's been close, but his games that he's played has always been a big knock on him. So I'm really hoping he's able to stay healthy, man, because watching a performance like this is just crazy, man. We're blessed to see this.
Yeah, Jay. No, I agree. He's playing at an extremely elite level. I think it's right now. It's his award to lose. But the way I look at it too, but I think it's going to be neck and neck race. Actually countering that and kind of backtracking on that, I think it's going to be back and forth between Jokic, but I will say that Steph's going to make a run. And here's why I say this, because he's shooting the ball better, Jay. And I just see that the impact that he's having playmaking wise on the Warriors, just being able to see their games. And I think he's going to make a run, but I don't know if it's going to be enough because of the way we've seen that despite his deficiencies on offense, and not to be said that he is one of the highest, if not the highest plus minus in the NBA. So it just shows that he can affect the game without having to score the ball. But that's another point. I think just the fact that the Warriors are still doing well despite of his previous slump that he was in, and the Sixers and the Nuggets need night to night Joel Embiid and Jokic to ball out in order to be successful and to win basketball games. And I don't think the same can be said for Steph.
That usually, but are you? Because it doesn't that usually, like, as much as it doesn't make sense because basketball is a sport game and like you should want to win whether your star player is there or not. But doesn't that argument make more sense and give more of a stronger case for Embiid and Jokic? Because if we're talking about MVP, right? MVP is most likely in the NBA. They're going to look at individual awards. Like that's why Westbrook got like that one when that every day year that he averaged triple double, but then it was like the ninth seed or something like that. It is. Don't you think that Warriors still being able to play good without Curry there is actually more detrimental to Curry's MVP case?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay,
getting
okay,
at.
that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I was trying to
Mhm.
understand what you're trying to say.
No,
Got
no,
you.
no, yeah, no,
Got
no.
you.
That was what I was getting at for his case. Um,
I mean,
even if he starts playing better basketball, I think that's going to be
which is stupid in my
ultimately a
opinion.
big.
Like that,
Yeah,
like
it's
those are
tough,
never
right?
like
Yeah,
I don't know. I hate when they do that in the NBA. Like they always do that for like, oh, we're
right.
like, well, his team was good when he wasn't there. We're like, wait, what? You want him to
Yeah,
be bad? So it's just crazy.
but but my counter to people who may say that for Steph's cases, let's think about what where the Warriors have come from, Jay. And this was a 2-year team 2 years ago in the 1920 season, who was the worst team in basketball. You push that forward to the last year, a team who was finished the season as a 7 seed, lost, obviously eventually getting knocked out by the Grizzlies in the playing game. But I mean, he was playing historic basketball to a team who's now jumped from the 7 seed in the West, I think about 5 or 6 games above 500, whatever they were at that time, to now the best team in basketball with a hot start by him leading those guys without Klay Thompson, without James Wiseman, without all those pieces, to now obviously coming through a slump. He has a bit of a case still. I still will say that he doesn't have the strongest case right now going through that slump to Embiid and Jokic, just a counter to play devil's advocate on the other side of him going through that slump. But the storyline to where they are now, being the second best team in basketball ultimately.
Storyline matters. Storyline matters. Yeah. I mean, it always matters, man. That's why, like, I think D Rose had won that MVP. He was like, oh, youngest MVP of all time and all that. So storyline definitely matters. And then, last question on this, Jay, just because on the MVP Kia ladder here, like it has first Joel, and then it has Jokic, and then has a very close third in Giannis. So that top three, do you think while I'm right there with you, and I think that Curry will make that push, and now he's had a great game the other day, got out of that historic shooting slump that he was in. Do you think he'll be able to make that push to be able to land that top three position?
I think he will be. I think he'll be able to land that top three spot right behind Jokic and Embiid, similar to last year. I think that one of Jokic and Embiid will ultimately end up winning the MVP, and then Curry will finish in third as he did last year, unfortunately. But fortunately, that the Warriors are a better basketball team, so I think he'll take that any day of the week, just knowing where he's built his brand on. But Jay, let's keep it pushing here, man. Love to get the rundown on the MVP and kind of how it's standing between how we're feeling temperature-wise about these players. And I'll just add this little caveat here, Jay. We would mostly likely on our recap and when we get into teams about trades and all that coming up, moving towards a deadline, we'll be having Western Conference buyers and sellers, Jay, for next week. And this upcoming weekend, the weekend of February 4th, this weekend.
the upcoming episode, y'all, is going to be buyers and sellers.
Episode is buyers and sellers. So look forward to that, and we're not going to spend too much time on that. So if you're looking forward to us talking more of that, look forward to us on the next episode upcoming is what I'm trying to say. And then we will be recapping all those deals that go down on February 10th, just as a reminder. But yeah, Jay, let's move it forward. Let's talk about some games, man. I know there was a lot of games that happened, some big games, some upsets. But what do you got highlighted? Games you want to talk about?
Man, I want to talk about this crazy game. I know we just kind of all got on Trae Young and like disrespected him, but now let me give all his respect right back, man. Crazy game. I saw the Hawks versus the Suns yesterday. The Hawks were able to beat the Suns 124-115, actually snapping the Suns on an 11-game winning streak. They're currently on 11-game winning streak. But then the Hawks came through and snapped that. And Jay, I don't know, Jay. I know the Suns lost, but Jay, the Suns are looking freaking good. Like such a deep team, Jay, and I don't know, Jay. I know earlier you were saying the Warriors are the best team in the league, Jay. I don't know, Jay. The Suns might have something to say about that, but
no,
Trae Young.
I said they were the best. I said the Warriors were the second best team.
Second best. Okay. I thought you said the best. Okay, but look,
right
Trae
now.
Young. Trae Young had something to say about that, though, because Trae Young, not only did he explode for the Hawks, Trae Young, not only did he explode for 43 points, but all 9 players from the Hawks really contributed. I mean, we had John Collins with 19 and 10, Kevin Huerter with 19 points, DeAndre Hunter 13, Bogdanovich with 11, Gallinari with 12 points. So, it definitely was a good back and forth game until just late in the second quarter, Kevin Huerter just exploded for 12 points in the second quarter and only missed 1 3-pointer. After that, man, that really gave the Hawks big energy coming into that second half. And then that helped Trae Young have a 28-point second half, man, which was just insane. And real quick, I just wanted to highlight, in such a big game with CP3, with D Book, all these veterans, like who was the guy that came and grabbed the snake by by its neck and took control of the game? The 23-year-old Trae Young. So, I wanted to give his praise for him on that. Although I still don't think he should be starting over Zach LaVine. Just wanted to give his praise on that, because for him to be able to do that, he was a superstar that rose to the occasion. And I mean, honestly, overall, this was definitely a great game for the Hawks, and they, as a team, shot 58% from the three, and the Suns shot 28% from the three. So that also helps the Hawks a lot in just being able to knock down their outside shots. And I mean, besides Trae Young putting up 43 points and 63% from the field, 54% from three, and 71% from the free throw line, the Hawks just really hit all their shots. But and then just real quick, I want to touch real quick on the whole Suns perspective, man. And like, you definitely want to see a little bit more out of DeAndre Ayton. Played a whole 25 minutes and only scored 6 points, and I didn't get to the free throw line not even once. I mean, in today's league, you're a big man. Like, getting to the free throw line, in my opinion, is kind of required of you. It's really because the refs are just blowing the whistle so loosely that, if you get in there, you could definitely get some easy points. But real quick, Jay, I just want to mention, like, if the Hawks play this way that they've been playing, like they play this way they played last night against the Suns, they would not be a 12th seed. There's just no way that they would be the 12th seed, because they got huge contributions from a bunch of people, but especially they got big contribution from players like Kevin Huerter, from players like DeAndre Hunter, right, who put up a lot of points. And that's what I think the Hawks really need: a consistent second scorer. I'm watching a lot of Hawks games, and it seems to be that Trae Young has a too much of the scoring load at times. If it's not Trae Young throwing a lob to Capella or John Collins, it's Trae Young having to find his own shots, or just having to find a shooter in a corner. And I don't think that that's really going to work down the line, which is why, again, like, if Cam Reddish called for the trade, all right, maybe he called it. I'm not in the locker room. I don't see what's going on, but I don't understand. I still am a little mind boggled how low they let Cam Reddish go for, because that's exactly what they need: a scorer, somebody who can put the ball on the ground and get a bucket at any time to relieve Trae Young and these other players. So I just wanted to add that, because them being the 12th seed, they should definitely be looking to make some changes to improve, not try to give play. I get it. You want to give DeAndre Hunter more space, but I think the more players you have, the more of a chance it is for it to work out. So I know that was long-winded, Jay, but definitely a good game for the Hawks and the Suns. The Suns came out strong, but Trae Young had something to say about it, man, and he put him to bed. It was cold out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. You don't think Bogdanovich is that scorer that they can rely on?
I don't.
He's too streaky.
I think he's too streaky, and I don't know if they can every night say, okay, here Trae Young can have a bad game. We trust you to put the ball on the ground and go get a bucket for yourself every single time.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, no, that was a huge win for the Hawks, especially again coming up at home against the best team in basketball record wise, I will say. And just to add this, yeah, I say the Suns right now, no doubt about it, best team in basketball. I do think Warriors full strength. I'm taking the Warriors over them. But I will add this: the Suns have been pretty much healthy and playing all their guys for most of the season. And you did say Chris Paul, we know, is 36 years old. So it just worries me when playoffs come around, just for their health, those kind of guys. But they are also one of the deepest teams. We've seen what Campaign does off the bench. Just to add that little caveat there, we will see how they hold up when the playoffs come around. But Jay, I'm not going to talk too much about that game. I caught the end of it, and was able to watch most of the Suns game. But I'm going to talk about another game, Jay, and that's the overtime win for the Toronto Raptors, 127-120 over the Chicago Bulls, Jay. That was a game. That was a game. Seems like the Raptors have been on a streak here. Been playing great basketball. They've been continue to keep it rolling. That's why I mentioned earlier when you had asked between the Cavs, I think it was the Cavs, I think the Hawks or someone, taking that 6th seed. That might have been in the Hawks. I think it was the Boston Celtics, but I said the Raptors would be kind of pulling up. The Cavs are still ahead of them, but I think the Raptors can continue to surge because, number one, they've got all their guys for the most part healthy now, and they just have that DNA built into them. They just know how to win games and are able to grind these games out and come through. And last night was another example of that. Pascal Siakam, balanced attack on the offensive end. Also, Pascal Siakam finished the game with 25 points, 13 rebounds. Chris Boucher was 16 points, 10 boards. Monster game from him. And then Scotty Barnes, the rookie, coming through with 21 points, including a tip-in when Fred VanVleet missed the layup with 144 left in OT, which was huge. Sorry, with seconds remaining after Vucevic had scored at the end of the game. And then Gary Trent, who's been rolling, we've seen him with 36. I think it was a career best 35 straight 30-point games, man. Absolutely rolling. But we saw him that streak end here when he finished the game with 16 points. And then Federico and OG Anunoby scored 21. So very balanced attack for the Raptors in this one, obviously. And it just spoke to me, Zach LaVine after the game was just saying they out physicaled us throughout the whole game. And that's just what I mentioned earlier, the Raptors DNA of being a physical team who may not have the talent that the other team has. Like, I think the Raptors aren't as talented as the Bulls, even missing a guy like Lonzo Ball. I think you just look at DeMar, Zach LaVine, and Nikola Vucevic. Those are the 3 best players on the floor, position-wise, in my opinion. I think Zach LaVine's the best guard, even better than Federico. DeMar DeRozan, best wing in that game for sure. And then Vucevic is the best big, in my opinion. Maybe Pascal Siakam had a little bit to say about that in this game, but I thought Vucevic outplayed him for the most part, despite actually they're pretty equal in this one. But let's talk about what Vucevic, who's a guy who's been playing great basketball as well. Vucevic matched his season high in this game with 30 points, 18 boards, his 9th double-double in 10 games, and quoted after the game saying, "I feel that I've been able to find a rhythm." And that's exactly what the Bulls needed. That's exactly what he's been doing, and that's why they've been playing better basketball. DeMar finished this game with 28 points against his former team. We saw Drake in the building last night, showing love as well. In the empty arena, and I'll add that as well. Kobe White finished the game with 16 points. Zach LaVine looking like a shell of himself. I don't know if he's injured or what, finishing the game with 15 points. He just didn't look like himself last night. They were on the floor. Javonte Green, who they're going to need to step up, finished with 13 points. And the rookie, Ayo Dosunmu, finished the game with 11 for the Bulls. So this was just a game that, like Zach LaVine had said, they just bullied them. It was back and forth game. But we saw at the end of the game, the Raptors led this game 103-93. And the Bulls were able to claw their way back, led by DeMar DeRozan, and tie the game with 40 seconds left, which was huge for the Bulls. And then they were able to take able to take the lead with Vucevic with 8.2 seconds left after Tepin on a broken play, which was huge. And I thought they were going to end the game there. That was it. But no, Fred VanVleet made a drive to the basket after a timeout, was able to get into the lane, slice up the defense. He missed the shot, but Barnes was able to tip it in, Jay, and then went into overtime after Vucevic shot up a brick to end the fourth quarter. A prayer, but there was 0.7 seconds left on the clock, man. And then in the overtime, Raptors just took over. They showed their depth, just hitting big timely shot after timely shot. And it just looked like the Bulls just ran out of gas there at the end of the game, man. And I look back just to the type of team, and I kind of remember when we had Oko on the show, Jay, and that was the type of team that I know the Raptors can be. And that's a team who has that championship DNA, who is going to out physically. We know the defensive capabilities that they have. They have the length with Scotty Barnes. They have the length with OG Anunoby, and then they have the shooting with Federico, OG Anunoby, who's improved his shooting as well as Gary Trent. We've seen he can be streaky at times, but he can be a great shooter as well. So I just look to the Raptors as a team that I know for sure, much like the Grizzlies, a team who's hungry, who I in 7-game series would not want to see if I was any team in the East, because I think that they just have that it factor that they can win a 7-game series against these top teams in the East. What they really need to do is just find a big man. And I think they're going to be active in the move. I don't know what they'll give up, but I think they realize that they may have a big, because them going small is a weapon that they can use against a lot of teams, and a lot of teams don't have that versatility. They can go small with Pascal Siakam at the 5, but they need a big lineup to also, on the flip side of that, with a true center, sometimes if they want to match up with a team like Philly, with a team even like I'm blanking on the name right now. Throw me a team in the East with a big who they can't match up with. Maybe even the Bulls,
the Bucks,
the Bucks.
Giannis is considered a big.
Giannis. I've heard rumblings of Brook Lopez potentially coming back. Your guy, John.
Don't tell me about this guy, Brook, man.
John's guy. For those of us running around laughing, John's guy on fantasy who he drafted. Put a lot of stock into as well.
A lot of stock. I got him on like the 3rd round, dog. Yeah. Didn't play one game for me.
V Lopez.
Mr. V Lopez. Shit's crazy, Jake.
The dog. But yeah, no, that's the recap for that game, Jay.
Wanted to add a little some as far as just on the Bull side of things. I definitely did see that you saying Zach LaVine looked like he was a shell of himself. He definitely looked like a shell of himself out there, scoring 15 points and really playing 42 minutes. So it's not like he didn't get his minutes. And I also looked to the shots that he takes. Right now he's averaging 18 attempted field goals per game, only took 10. Right now he's averaging 5 attempted free throws per game, only took 2. So I think that these are simple problems that you can look at and say he just wasn't being aggressive enough. Like how you said, for what reason we don't know. Is it injury? Is it something personal? But you definitely would like to see your big 3, your 1, 2, or 3, however you want to call it, out of your big 3 step up, with DeMar and Vooch stepping up big. So you definitely would like to see that out of Zach. And then for the Raptors, Jay, man, I really like that analogy you put. You said they're the Raptors of the East, they're the Grizzlies of the East, because they really are, dog. Like they will, and on a nightly basis, anybody could lose to them. The Phoenix Suns, the Warriors, the Nets, the Bulls, all these teams. I mean, look at that. The Bulls just lost them, right? So, like on any given night, these teams, these top teams, could get taken out by teams like the Raptors, man. Because all they do is they just play like a team. So, absolutely, Jay. That great game breakdown, man. But all right, Jay. So I think right now is a cool place for us to go ahead and wrap this up, Jay. We got some games we got to get to today. We got to watch and get into them, Jay. So I think we could wrap it up here. But do you got any last words you want to say before we get off here?
No, man. No. We gotta wrap it up too. No, Great episode as usual. Always appreciate y'all tuning into Hidden Takes. Always appreciate the support. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please like this, give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Music. Takes 2 seconds. We really appreciate that. Your support and everything. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Excuse me. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, at Clutch Talk Pod, CLUTCHTLAK, all one word, POD. That's Clutch Talk Pod. And get us with questions, comments, concerns. If you think we have debate topics, whatever you want to hear from us, we'll get you. We always love the input, the feedback. And we appreciate y'all being part of the Clutch Talk community, man. That's all I got to say.
Yes, sir. And we out of here, y'all. Clutch Talk out.
Dose.